Yeah. Sure.
We'll just add that. Okay, good evening again. Welcome to the West Valley School District Board of Directors School Board meeting. It is Tuesday, January 23rd, 7 p.m. I will call the meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I have item 4, changes to the agenda. I have one change to the agenda, and that is I'm going to pull out item 8, section D7, and this is approval of employment contracts, and it is Anthony Fritz's volunteer girls basketball position at West Valley High School. As a matter of full disclosure, Mr. Fritz is a personal friend of mine. I've had nothing to do with his application for employment to the district, but I will be abstaining from voting under the conflict of interest policy of the West Valley School District. So that'll be moved to that'll be an action item 9C. Any other changes to the agenda?
No changes.
Okay. Communications?
We have response to public comment as a placeholder. There was no public comment at the last meeting, so we'll move on to the high school ASB report. We have Ava Ferguson and Magnus Fulton are here this evening, our high school representatives to the school board. Magnus, again, is a senior, Ava is a junior, and they're going to give us the high school ASB report. So, well, have you go up so you can be heard on the microphone. We do have the streaming up and running. We apologize. There were technical difficulties at the study session, but our IT director, Jeremy Cox, was able to come here from home, I believe, and ran down and somehow worked his magic. And we have the streaming up and running for the school board meeting. So I appreciate Jeremy dropping everything and coming and helping us and able to get things running in a short time period. And that was a good enough vamp right there, or stalling to fill the time to get Magnus and Ava up there so they're ready to present.
Well, inclusion is very important to us here at West Valley, so we recently purchased some new flag standards to install out in the commons so we can get more flag donations to hang up, which we're very excited about. And we'd also like to thank our counselors for being so busy with helping students and families plan for next year. On January 30th, our counseling staff will lead a YV Tech informational Ramstrong for our sophomores and juniors. With the FAFSA open, our counseling staff will hold their first FAFSA Help Night this year on the 31st at 6 p.m., followed by their second workshop on February 7th. At the same time, the counseling staff will hold a running start information session in Ramstrong on February 6th for sophomores and juniors, with the parent meeting to follow at on the 7th at 6 p.m. You know, the FAFSA, YV Tech, all this information is really good to have, and we'd like to thank them for helping students figure it all out.
All right, thank you, Magnus. And I saw in the written report that if a student would like to see a flag flown in the Commons, then they would contact Mr. McMurray. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct.
So anyone with any background, or Native American students that might want to represent their
Yeah,
heritage, that they can contact Mr. McMurray and that they can make that happen, right?
yeah, I'm glad for that point of clarification. That's the goal.
All right, wonderful. All right, Ava, anything to add on the ASB report?
No, I think that's about it.
All right, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions from the board?
Okay, for the capital project summary, we want to make sure that we're providing transparency and on updated and ongoing information for our community. So Joe Conley, our Assistant Superintendent for Business Operations, included an update in the board packet. That's for everyone to see. And also just a reminder that as we make progress on capital projects, Mr. Conley is updating a spreadsheet in real time. It's available on the Business Services website for West Valley. You just go down and click on the spreadsheet option, and then you can download that. We do have action item this evening, and so I'm pretty sure tomorrow morning he'll be updating that spreadsheet. He keeps it up to date in real time. All right, next is school board appreciation recognition. So you can see all the wonderful things that we have in visual display here. We also have proclamation from the governor, and we have some other surprises here for the board. Magnus is going to share one of those, and I think Geraldine has something ready from White Hollow. So Ava, why don't you lead us off with the proclamation?
All right, yeah, this is the proclamation from the state of Washington. Whereas the mission of Washington's public school system is to ensure that all students receive high levels and possess the knowledge and skills to be responsible members of a democratic society and enjoy productive and satisfying lives. And whereas Washington's 1,477th locally elected school boards of directors and 9 elected educational service district boards are the core of the public education governance system in our state. They serve more than 1.1 million students and have a combined annual budget of over $15 billion and employ approximately 120,000 people. And whereas school boards play a crucial role in promoting student learning and achievement by creating a vision, establishing policies and budgets, and setting clear standards of accountability for all involved. And whereas school board directors are directly accountable for residents in their districts and regions, serving as a vital link between members of the community and their schools. And whereas school boards and ESDs provide a passionate voice of advocacy for public schools and the welfare of school children. And whereas it is appropriate to recognize school board directors as outstanding public servants and champions for public education. Now, therefore, Jay Inslee, Governor of the State of Washington, do hereby proclaim January 2024 as School Board Recognition Month in Washington and encourages all people in our state to join me in this special day of observance. Thank you.
All right, let's give the board a hand for that. All right, and Magnus has more for us.
In ASB, we wrote a little poem for school board appreciation. So I hope you'll join. The travel requests keep filing in, making it easy for our teams to stack up the wins. Out in the valley, we be mowing our lawns. Y'all in here be reviewing policies all night long. While in the state and the voters be leveling demands, don't forget your service or do lots of WV fans. Public comments be dropping some crazy bombs. Y'all in here taking it oh so calm. Living our lives in the valley, Palm Springs, like Cali. We see you debating, shaking the hating, enforcing the laws, working out any flaws. And our budgets, you write them. Policies, you pass them. Standards, you set them. Contracts, you approve them. The services, you spread them. The valley, you lead them. We're the Rams, but you're the GOAT, leading the charge with every vote. With Dr. Finch at the helm, the course is set. As the board does their work, every goal is met. The West Valley Rams are in good hands. thanks to the board, our grads are ready to contribute across the lands.
All right, very good.
Thank you.
The goat
I think you
is the-
should wrap that with a beat next time.
Next
I
time.
think he was trying to.
That's the greatest of all time. Well done. All right, and now we have a little video. Is that right? From White Hollow? Is that?
Yes, just, it looks like he has something else, or you want to wait till after the video?
Well, if you don't mind, we'd just like to offer one more token of
Go for it,
appreciation
Magnus.
from,
Yeah.
us and ASB, and really the whole school district and teachers have done this as well. So thank you.
Oh, that's very
Thank you.
nice.
All
Thank
right,
you.
awesome.
Thank you, guys.
All right, and now we have something from White Hollow.
I love our school board, it is true. They help us learn in all we do. They help us ensure we're safe and sound. Yes, we are so glad that they're around. Our school board wants to live in our school, making sure we have our learning tools. They make sure that they take their best to the students, teachers, and all the rest.
Wow, that was memorized. Awesome.
That was great.
That was great. All right, and then finally we have some nice certificates here. Building the Future of Public Education School Board Recognition Month. So appreciate Joel Heed.
Thank you, sir.
There you go. And appreciation to James Kephart.
Thank you.
Appreciation to Michael Thorner.
Thank you.
Appreciation to Mark Strong. And appreciation to Steve Wolcott. All right, I think that concludes our school board appreciation recognition. Next in the program is our program for this evening. It's a focus on transitional bilingual instructional program. Also, as Geraldine and I talked about the program, she's going to start off with a couple slides just about all of our state and federal programs, all the work that she oversees, and quite amazing budgets if you take a look at it. Really appreciate Geraldine's leadership for our district. She's going to be joined by Rebecca Festa, instructional coach for the district for the transitional bilingual instructional program. And then Kristen Walker is going to be here as well. And Kristen works here at the high school, is going to be part of the presentation, focus on English language development. And then also Kristen is working on her administrative credential as well. Another shout out to another intern is in the audience. Another Kristen Williams is also working on her principal certificate this year as well. We'll ask the board to join the audience so they can see the PowerPoint. And we'll give Geraldine a second here to get ready, and then we'll have the presentation.
Well, I'm ready. Peter told me I couldn't add anything to the slides after I turned it in. I was afraid I wasn't going to remind myself to tell you my name, but he did it, so that worked. My name's Geraldine Ashbaugh, State and Federal Programs Director. I have been serving as the director since about this time last year. I think it was March of last year. Prior to that, I was State and Federal Programs Coordinator. So the only thing that really changed for me is now I write the grants and I support the work around the budget. So yeah, like Peter said, we are going to start just by telling you a little bit about the state and federal programs, showing you the budget for each program. I do really want to remember to tell you when you're looking at the budget for each one of these programs, there are very strict, specific guidelines around how this money is spent. And that is another really big piece of my job, is making sure that when I'm approving expenditures in the district, that it aligns with the state's requirements and that it's an allowable expense for what is mostly supplemental programs. So when we're looking at basic ed funding and expenses, they don't really go together. It's completely separate. So the very first slide, I just want to share with you the state and federal programs that we have here in the district. The very first one is our transitional bilingual instructional program. That's what we're going to be talking about tonight. And so we'll get more into that in a little bit. We also have the highly capable program, and you can see the budget there for that program as well. Can you hear it? And then we have our learning assistance program, and the learning assistance program really works to support our learners at the elementary level who may be at risk or performing below grade level. So that might look like reading intervention at the elementary schools, or it will look like that. Our federal programs that you see here, we have the Title I Part A program. The Title I Part A program is, we have targeted assistance at the middle level. Again, is used to work with students who are failing or at risk of failing in order to meet our state standards. We also have school-wide program, again, working at the high school, working to meet the needs of the low-achieving students there. Title I also supports parent and family engagement, as well as early learning in our district, our preschools and our transitional kindergartens. We have Title I Part C, which is our migrant education program. Title III, which allows for additional supports and help for our multilingual and American Indian and Alaskan Native students. And then Title IV, which is our basically academic enrichment for our middle level students at this time. So after school activities, which we're really proud of. So you can see all the budget numbers there as well. So that's just a really quick overview. I want to make sure that if you have any questions about any of those programs, feel free to reach out to me. I'll put my number up at the end of the presentation. And now we're going to transition to transitional bilingual. All right, I am going to read this entire slide. The State Transitional Bilingual Education Program, referred to as TBIP, and Federal Title III address the unique needs of eligible students who come from linguistically and culturally diverse backgrounds. Both programs share the same goal: develop language proficiency that enables meaningful access to grade level content and instruction. In state law, TBIP is a program within Washington's Basic Education Act, supports supplemental instruction and services for language acquisition. The state TBIP places a strong emphasis on cultural values. Its mission: English language learners, you might hear them referred to as ELL students or MLL students for multilingual students, meet state standards and develop language proficiency in an environment where language and cultural assets are recognized as valuable resources for learning. Goes right along with our culture of belonging and safety. Oh, go. In West Valley, we value these things: belonging and access. With our multilingual students, we value an assets-based mindset. We really want to emphasize and understand and appreciate what our students bring to school with them, not only their culture, but their knowledge in their native language. We value that English language proficiency. The goal of Transitional Bilingual Program is to get them to English language proficiency, but we also value their home language. We understand that that's a really important part of who they are and what they bring with them. And then also that career and college ready for our multilingual students. Students qualify as transitional bilingual students when they register for school. Their home language survey, it all depends on how their parent fills it out. If there is another language spoken in the home, or they have another language that was their first language, they're identified for the screener, which is called the WVSD screener. And if they qualify, then they are identified and served. So those are the two main components there: the home language survey and the WVSD screener. And that is an ongoing process. That screening is happening all year long as students enroll in our program. Some students come to our school already having received services, and so we don't rescreen them, we just serve them. In West Valley, these are our students. We have 505, and this would be transitional or multilingual students. I didn't put the Title III number on there, which is Alaska Native and American Indian. We have 505 multilingual students and 15 languages represented. Last year, I think it was 9 or 8 or 9. So that's cool. Some of the languages, there's one, but I was excited to see that those languages have increased. In 2021 and 2022, we transitioned from the ELPA, which was the English Language Proficiency Assessment, to the WIDA. So we have new standards, English language standards, and a new assessment. Imagine that. We went from 15 students who transitioned out of program, which was shocking because in the past we'd had around 60 or so. But new test, new standards, just coming out of COVID. Last year we had 31 students who transitioned out of program, and I am positive we are going to double that number this year. They changed the criteria just a smidge too, so that will help. Our multilingual learners are supported through a multi-tiered system of support. So you may have heard of MTSS. We utilize this for all kinds of things in the school district, from academics to behavior and as well as language. And so you can see that tier 1 is really our multilingual learners are receiving that high quality instruction, and all ML students are entitled to that in their general ed classroom. So tier 1, all students get English language support in their classroom. Tier 2 might look like additional supports. It might be a smaller group setting. It might be extra minutes of support because they just need a little more. And tier 3 may look like your one-on-one monolingual students who are coming to us with 0 English and just they need more. So following that multi-tiered system of support with our multilingual learners as well. This is actually our state's model. I have a more detailed model, but I wanted to keep it light. So we're doing all we can to make sure that students are getting what they need in order to become English language proficient, because that's our goal, is to help them do that. And so when I say English language proficiency, it's more than social language. It's the academic language. And so that's really important to understand, as every single teacher is an English language proficiency teacher or an ELD teacher. They teach the language of their content. And so that's the message that we're sending, is that we're working on these language skills in all of our classrooms. So Rebecca and Kristen are going to share a student's journey with you. One of our students who came to us and tested proficient, and they'll tell you a little bit more. Do you want to go to the next slide? That one where she's from. Go the other way. No, use the arrow. That's easier. Okay, and then one more for where she's from.
Okay, thank you. So this student is from Michoacan, Mexico, and she shared that she was born into a mountainous village where there was no electricity. And from the time she was 5 to 9 years old, her and her brother actually walked 2 hours both directions in order to go to school every day. And she said, she's adorable, and she said, "I can't wait until someday when I have kids, because I get to tell them that I walked uphill to school every day." So she went to school for those years, and then her mom actually moved to America looking to make a better life for the family. And she moved in with her sister several hours away and attended school until she moved to the US. So when she came to us, she was placed in 7th grade at the junior high. And at the time, Mrs. Ashbaugh was her newcomer teacher, and her brother joined her in that class where they got intensive English language development teaching. And then they also attended academic grade level content classes as well. And the next year, in the 8th grade, oh, sorry. Okay. There we go. In the 8th grade, I met these students and I got to have them in a class for English language development where we continued to build upon what they had previously done the year before with Mrs. Ashbaugh. And I worked with their teachers to ensure that what they were receiving in the class was accessible to them. So we made sure that scaffolds and supports were added to lessons so the students could access content while in their classes. And it was amazing, even in the 8th grade, to see them excel. And then they moved, well, we had COVID in there, and then they moved on to the high school. So this particular student, in her freshman year, she was working with Mrs. Montoya in an emerging class where she said it was the first time she really started to speak out loud, that she was growing more confident in the language, being immersed amongst her peers. She'd been very shy prior and kind of started to show her personality a little bit more at the high school level and felt more confident in her academics. So she spent the first year with her, and then she was with me in her junior year. So 2 years, actually. So 2 years with Mrs. Montoya, and then last year with me. And she was the student that was there at my door every single morning. And we would come in and we would go through all of her work from the day prior and looking through prompts and things that had language, the academic language that she was still learning. And we would just break it down, bring visuals, do whatever was needed to make sure that she understood what she was being asked to do. And from that point on, she completely excelled. She's actually with me in a college in the high school course where she's gaining college credit this year and has a 4.0 GPA in her first semester at the high school. Just absolutely excelling, doing incredible with the goal of becoming a pilot someday. Sure. So a student that comes to us that has no English background, normally it takes 5 to 7 years to catch up to their peers academically. And this student, it was at the 5-year mark that she became proficient in English language. And she excels because she has that drive and determination. And I also think, she had some great support and family members, teachers behind her. So we're just super proud of this student who will graduate this year.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Okay.
You had mentioned that there was a more complex display.
Yes.
Is there any way that I could maybe see that research? I'd love to see the details.
So are you referring to the tiered model?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is actually just one that I made for the district. And yes, I'd be happy to share that with you. So I will get your email from Dr. Finch. Awesome.
And I would just like to add, I went to a community cafe a couple months ago at one of the schools, and I got to sit with a couple parents that are two different families they represented, but their kids were part of this program, and the younger, and one of the things that was common with them is they talked about the amount of support that they got.
Good.
And so just listening to your presentation tells that it's not just a job, but you care about what you do. So I do appreciate what you guys are doing there. And one question I had was with the tiers. So you 505 students. I'm just kind of getting an idea of where the resources are concentrated. How many students or percentage do you have in each tier?
Really great question. I would say very few in tier 3 with where it's one-on-one.
Mhm.
Those are our, again, non-English
Yeah.
speakers at all. So only probably 3 or 4 kids that are getting that really one-on-one intensive. In intervention or tier 2, which it's not really intervention, but they do small group. They're more served within the confines of the LAP program, but it's transitional bilingual support. What do you say? 30% maybe of the kids who are in that tier 2 would be receiving, maybe 40. I would really have to look. But it's not all of our kids. So our students who are higher level English language development, their services are in the classroom through consultation with an instructional coach.
And so those 30% of students that are getting the tiered intervention, they are also getting the core instruction.
Yes,
So
it
it is
is
100% of students getting that core tier.
100% of students should be getting support through scaffolds and supports in their classroom with their general ed teacher. And we're working to support through instructional coaching. They have an instructional coach in their building as well. And so lots of opportunities to have conversations around those services.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay. Oh,
I didn't want to interrupt. I do have a question. So this was, I love the story, not this, I love the story, the journey of this particular student starting basically at the mid-level campus and then advancing through to the high school. So the question that I have is, what about the ELL student that comes to us in kinder, first grade, elementary school? How are those students serviced at the elementary level?
great. Yeah, it's definitely harder when you come at the secondary level, right? And you're not starting at such an early age.
Yes.
At the elementary level, they are served in their core classroom with scaffolds and supports. But if they need more, because their language level is lower, then they would be either pulled out by an instructional parapro and served in a small group setting, or sometimes we push in and we serve them within the classroom. So it just depends on the model of the building, but they would get extra time in a smaller group setting.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this is probably more of a technical money question, because when we look at the numbers that we get both from the state of Washington and the federal government, those resources are mainly used on personnel, right? And so when we are spending money on those resources, when we're utilizing those monies, it's not like all of these monies go to one teacher and be funding some of the positions, some portion of the position. Is that the right way to say it?
Yeah. So
Carolyn Knutson,
almost all of
she
our
runs the
money,
budget.
yeah,
Yeah.
almost all of our money goes to personnel, whether it's a paraeducator or a multilingual instructional coach. We also do spend some of that money on the personnel for screening of students who are coming into the district, and then also our annual testing, because it's quite a 8-week window of testing in the spring. So, but yes, most of it is to personnel.
So, but like para at fill in the blank school or teacher at fill in the blank school, some of the money would be allocated to them. Do we have to like code for that specifically?
Yes.
For that, and then the coding is based upon the amount of time that they spend on.
Yeah, we really work to make it based on the number of students who are in their program. And so you might have a paraeducator who's 31% transitional bilingual, and now I can't do the math, but 69% LAP. Because the more they serve more LAP students than they do transitional bilingual students. So we would look at numbers.
Yeah, effectively, it's a puzzle to put together.
Yes.
To try to get. the
Yes.
money.
And actually, Joe Conley does a really nice job with that, and I just keep track.
And then my final question about money. Do we utilize levy dollars to supplement these programs as well, or are we pretty much sufficient on state and federal monies in these?
Well, we could always use more money. No, we do not use we do not use levy money to support our transitional bilingual program.
Yeah. We run the programs within their budget. There are always outside influences that at the state legislature that is concerning. There's currently a bill that's being considered that would have across the board raise for staff. But then if they don't have the money that they would put in the budget to increase funding for that staff, then that's going to leave us in a position where our only choice is to reduce staffing in order to fulfill that unfunded mandate. So we always keep an eye on things with the legislature and try to educate the legislature that, hey, if this were to pass, then this would be a negative impact unless you fund it for us. But oftentimes they're unfunded mandates, unfortunately. So that's one of the issues when it comes to a budget that is, self-sustaining, because that we work within that budget, because if there's an outside impact that we have to, do something about an unfunded mandate, then it comes down that we have to reduce staffing.
I guess one final question about money. So this pot of money from the state and from the federal government mostly goes to personnel, but within that also would be professional. I would assume also a good portion of that would go toward the professional development of our existing staff to service these students.
Yeah, we do use just a little bit of transitional bilingual money. We do really tap into our Title III funds for the professional development piece. So we will be hosting a GLAD 2-day demo for all teachers K-5 and a 4-day classroom demo for our primary students this spring. And then we'll do a 4-day demo in the fall for our intermediate teachers, intermediate. So 3-5. And then we're working on some PSYOP options for our secondary staff. But yeah, most of that comes out of Title III.
And you were kind of throwing around some acronyms there. So,
Oh, I'm sorry.
So the GLAD is Guided Language Acquisition Design. And the question about professional development is a good one, Mr. Thorner. In the past, we maybe had to allocate more for professional development, but we've done such a good job of building capacity within our school district that we have, instead of having to pay for trainers, we have in-house Jennifer Ditter and Jesse Goldbeck, who are certified trainers for guided language acquisition design. In addition, because we've done such a good job in the past of having teachers have that professional development, we're in a place where we have everyone trained, and just the new teachers that are hired need to get this training because other teachers have it. So we've done a nice job of investing in professional development and then having this continuity. And that has helped us to reduce the amount of money that we actually have to spend on professional development. The other thing I was going to say about the budgets, when Geraldine talked about Title III being devoted to professional development, that's because Title III is federal money. And if you use federal money for staffing, then you have to do what's called time and effort. And again, when you looked at those budgets, all of those are part of the audit that we have every spring to make sure that the money is spent the way it's supposed to be spent. And so Geraldine, that is a big part of her job. And that if we ever have federal money going into staffing, she makes sure that the time and effort is done so that we're accountable for that audit.
Great, thank you.
We also have an in-house Sheltered Instructional Observation Protocol, or PSYOP trainer. Rebecca.
Can I ask one more question, Geraldine? I'm sorry.
Yes, yes.
And last question, I promise. But so paras and coaches. So I imagine not all the paras are bilingual. Are the coaches gonna be bilingual in one of those 15 languages? Is that? I'm just curious if
no,
that's
actually, they are not. Rebecca is not bilingual. We do have a coach at the middle level that is bilingual, but the goal of the transitional bilingual program is English language development. So while speaking the language of the students can be very helpful, it's not necessarily a requirement because it's all around those instructional strategies and best practices.
Okay.
And of course, 15 languages in West Valley would be a challenge. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one more question, if I could. I won't ask a money question, I promise.
Oh, it's okay. I've got Dr. Finch here.
This is more just dealing with the language issue itself. So can you describe, or are there any challenges when some of these students begin to learn English and they get homework assignments, I assume, and they have to learn, and then they go home, but then they speak their native language at home? Are we doing anything to help with that portion of their development? Parents play a big role. The family situation entirely really plays a big role in their development as well. So I'm just wondering, is this program helping in that endeavor?
I would say that the students that have the biggest barriers, we have a lot of teachers who will modify, potentially translate directions on an assignment. With technology now, students actually can translate their own work on their Chromebooks, and we teach them how to do that. So most everything they see on their Chromebook can be translated, which is fabulous. Do you have anything you want to add to that in terms of home support? A lot of communication goes home in their native language, but in terms of helping them with their assignments, it would be something that they would learn how to translate on their computers for the most part.
And we've had family nights where families have come in and we show them how to use tools on their phones to translate. Google Translate, you can hover over a document and it will translate into their home language. So we give parents the tools that they can use at home with their kids as well.
That's really great. I know I spend time with my kids doing homework, so I understand the challenge, and that must be a double challenge for those
Absolutely.
individuals at home with, speaking a different language. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I was also going to say at the high school.
Yeah,
for-
go ahead, have Kristen, because we have people online, so,
course.
yeah.
At the high school for our monolingual students, one of the supports that these ladies have helped put into place is a course where the students will start their day and end their day. So this is just for our monolingual students with the same instructor in a very small group setting. The first period is for language acquisition, and that sixth period they come in and they would bring all of their homework to me. I had a para who I had actually had two paras throughout the year at different times who were bilingual, but even when I didn't, we were able to use all the technology and all the pieces, and it just helped for me to be able to communicate with families as well and have one person at the school kind of in charge of their learning and to help them support that. So I think that was very successful for students.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, wonderful. Well, thank you for a great presentation, and thank you, Rebecca and Kristen, for assisting, and Geraldine, thank you for your leadership of the program. All right, before we move on, we had such a nice presentation by Ava Ferguson and Magnus Fulton on board appreciation, but we need to remember they are on the board as well as student representatives. So I have certificates for them as well. Building the Future of Public Education, appreciation for Ava Ferguson and Magnus Fulton.
Thanks, Dr. Finch. We're on to item 7, which is the public comment period. Ms. Smith, did we have anybody sign up for public comment this evening? Okay. No one signed up for public comment this evening, although I'll open it up for public comment at this time. Members of the public who would like to address the board are encouraged to sign in. Speakers will be called in the order which they're signed in to speak. We ask that you be courteous and limit your comments to 3 minutes. But the public comment period is not a forum to address concerns about a specific staff member. If a commenter has a specific concern about a staff member, they are encouraged to make an appointment with Dr. Finch to address their concerns. So with that, even though we did not have any sign up for public comment this evening, I'll go ahead and open it up for public comment at this time. I will go ahead and close the public comment period. Item 8, which is approval of the consent agenda, which is approval of minutes, vouchers and payrolls, financial reports, approval of employment contracts, although we did take one out, which has been moved to action items. Approval of resignations, retirements, and separations, approval of leave requests. I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Strong. I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion carries on the consent agenda as presented, taking out item 8D7 5-0. Next up are action items. So we have approval of policy additions and revisions, first reading. Dr. Finch, would you like to introduce those for us, please?
Certainly. And in the future, I'll have a cover memo with more information on the changes. But just wanted to share for highly capable, this was a change that we knew was coming. Wendy Clark, our coordinator for the program for the district, had brought this to our attention. And she had concerns about the original draft. And so we had tabled that. WASDA has come back with this recommended changes now with some updates, and Wendy has reviewed it, and she says, yes, this is appropriate for the board to move forward on the 2190 highly capable programs. The next one, 2413.
Dr. Finch, I have a
Yes.
question on it. I noticed in the WASDA magazine that they said something about 2190p also. Was there any changes in that we didn't see?
Oh, so the policy is what comes to the board, and then the procedures are the administrative actions.
Okay.
And so we make sure that we review those and we make any updates as needed. 2413, this was another one that we knew had passed the legislature. Jed Waters, who's here this evening, he and I had worked to incorporate this into procedures for graduation requirements, because it is a way that students can earn credit. And so the elective credit for paid work experience, that's the main addition here to this policy. WASDA is recommending bringing it into 2413 equivalency credit opportunities, which makes sense. And so we're recommending that we move forward with this. This is the main change to this policy, is that students now can earn up to 2 elective high school credits through paid work experience. And that's what this update will do.
Can I ask a question about 2413? It doesn't really affect my
Sure.
wanting to approve it or not, but just more of a question or a suggestion. So at the very beginning of this policy, it says a pretty broad introduction, which is prior to the course scheduling or course registration for the next school term, the district will provide information to students and their parents or legal guardians about meeting credit-based graduation requirements through equivalency courses. So my comment slash question slash suggestion is, would it serve the district well to actually say about when that would occur in the year and state when prior to course scheduling or course registration for the next school term occurs?
At the current time, we're on semester. This would leave it open that if we ever move to trimester, we wouldn't have to change policy per se. But it's really the board's prerogative if we wanted to make it more clear. Our plan on this would be to have a website that would share all this information, have it out on the web at all times, and then have an email that would go out to parents prior to the registration and direct them to that website for more information.
Okay. I guess if
We could go first reading and
Yeah,
come
yeah,
back with some more
absolutely.
clarification.
I guess the thing, I mean, all of what you just said makes perfect sense to me. Just thinking about someone who would actually read these policies, how would they know where to go look for this stuff? If in the policy, it really didn't direct them to when this occurred or where they could go look for this information. And that's more, again, I don't necessarily, I mean, from my perspective, I don't have any problem with this. I'm just as a person that would read this, it'd be like, okay, so where do I go from here?
Right.
That's, I guess, that would be my comment, question. Anyway, you can think about it.
Yeah, in second reading, maybe we could bring back, I mean, because I think our plan is one that's keeps the information very accessible. So
Sure.
we could put in there that the district will maintain a website that has this information.
Yeah.
So we can work on that for second reading.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions about 2413? All right, next is a new policy, 2415. This is also based on the law from last spring. And this is just another way that students can fulfill the pathway requirement for high school graduation. And so it's pretty straightforward that this is a student would have a proposal on how to create their pathway and would need to be approved by the principal. Next is the employment policy 5005, employment and volunteers. So this was information about getting information from a prior school district regarding any disclosures, and then also making it clear that we do pre-employment drug testing in West Valley, and that would follow the requirements of the RCW. And then I think we just have the final one. Yeah, lots of citations on that one. The final one is 5271, and this one, as Stephanie and I were reviewing this, we were saying, does this really need to go to the board? But I think we agreed that it would be good to have for the record that the board is approving the addition to the title of the policy, and also the fact that we're changing it from an encouraged policy to essential policy. So this is the 5271, reporting improper governmental action, whistleblower protection. So there's really no change to the actual policy that we currently have, except for the addition of the title and then changing it to an essential policy for the district. And that's the overview of the additional policies.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Finch. So we can approve these one by one, or I'd entertain a motion to approve the first reading, all 9A 1 through 5, all as a group, either whatever the board would like. This is just a first reading. There will be a second reading at a subsequent board meeting with any revisions called to the board's attention from first reading to second reading. So like, for example, if administration does decide to, if you will, take me up on the suggestion to make a couple of tweaks to 2413, for example, then we can still pass it tonight and then come back around for second reading and approve it then. So with that introduction, what's the board's pleasure?
I will go ahead and make a motion that we approve all five of those items, approval policy addition revisions, first reading, 2190, 2413, 2415, 5005, and 5271.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Strong. I'll go ahead and call for a vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries on the 5 policies first reading 5-0. Next up is item 9B, approval of Mountain View Well Project.
Well, very pleased that we had a bid this time around. We had gone out to bid previously and had not had any companies bid on the project. The other reason we're grateful is that the bid came in under budget. So we do recommend approval of this. And like I said earlier, once it's approved, Mr. Conley will update the spreadsheet, put in the date of approval, and we'll move forward with the project.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Finch. Any further questions from the board?
I just have one. Just curious, there was only one bid submitted. Was there any interest anywhere else and they just didn't submit a bid?
I think what I've learned is that we talked to other companies because they are required to do prevailing wage on a government contract, that there's additional paperwork and such that would be a burden to them to do that. So they decided not to move forward with the bid, but the company that did the bid will do the prevailing wage and the paperwork needed. And again, it came in under budget, so we're very glad to see that.
I would also say that in the past, on relative to various contractors' interest in doing this, it's been an exceptional challenge, not just recently, but going back years, because this has been on the list for a while, and a big part of the problem is generating interest from anybody. So we're, I would say, fortunate to finally have somebody step up and bid the project for us. So, all right. I'd entertain a motion to approve the Mountain View Well Project.
I'll make a motion to approve the Mountain View Well Project.
Thank you, Mr. Walcott. I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Next up, item 9, which is the revised item 9C, which is the approval of Anthony Fritz, volunteer girls basketball coach at West Valley High School. Again, for the record, that was removed from consent agenda because Mr. Fritz is a personal friend of mine. And again, for the record, I had no involvement relative to him seeking employment with the West Valley School District, though I will be abstaining from the vote. So, but I can entertain a motion from somebody.
I will motion it.
Okay, thank you. I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0, and I abstain. Thank you. Item 10, items arising. Okay. None this evening. Item 11, reports. In the packet are administrative reports, enrollment reports, safety reports, travel log report, and PBIS report, as well as reports from every building in the district. Anything else to add, Dr. Finch?
Just as the superintendent, it's really pleasing to see that there was more than one of our schools gave recognition to our facilities department for the responsiveness, the efficiency of the work, and just, it's really great to see that the school principals are feeling that support from our facilities department. So appreciate our director, Jack McCaskill, our coordinator, Blake Scully, and all the staff and facilities. It's noticed when they are so responsive, and we really appreciate their work.
Actually, I was going to say the same thing. That was definitely a theme to the school reports, was the kudos for various things that facilities helped and custodians took care of. And also, at least this board member enjoys reading the progress on the school improvement plans at our various buildings. I think all of us appreciate that, but I really appreciate that as well. All right. Next up, superintendent's report.
My superintendent's report was focused on this coming weekend. We are hosting a regional competition for JROTC. Includes programs from Oregon and Eastern Washington. We have cadets from all the armed forces of Army, Marine Corps, Navy, and Air Force. There's a new program from Wenatchee that's an Air Force JROTC that will be coming for the first time for their competition. And of course, West Valley's program is affiliated with the Army JROTC. Just really appreciate the leadership of our students, our parent volunteers, and of course our teachers, which are Colonel Brian James and Master Sergeant Greg Bynum. It's going to be a great event, and the award ceremony, after they're all done with the competition, award ceremony will be at 5:30 p.m. at the gym, and it'll be a great event coming here this weekend on Saturday.
Thank you, Dr. Finch. Item 13, board reports, board development.
Just a quick report. I got to do a event with Apple Valley on Sunday. I was so impressed by just the staff and the volunteers that were there. Exceptional workers and just really wonderfully skilled at their gifts, especially the kitchen staff. It was really cool to see.
Thank you. Anything else? All right. Item 14 is an executive session, this is our continued board deliberations on Dr. Finch's mid-year evaluation. We will go into executive session for 1 hour, coming out of executive session at approximately 9 o'clock. And no action will be taken, and then we will adjourn the meeting following coming out of executive session. So thanks for everybody coming this evening, and I'm glad, thanks to our IT department for getting us online, and our apologies that the study session was not broadcast on Zoom, but we appreciate IT helping us out tonight. So with that, we'll go into executive session, and we'll come out at 9 p.m. Oh, look at all this fun stuff. Okay, it's 8:59. We are going to continue the executive session for 30 minutes until 9:30. Adjourn, coming out with no action. Thank you. Okay, it's 9:30 and we are adjourning the meeting, taking no action. Thank you.